Hands in Of Mice and Men. The hand is an incredibly important symbol in Of Mice and Men. And if you get the opportunity to talk about it in the exam, I would urge you to do so. The first thing to note is that the men, the workers, are referred to as ranch hands, and in fact that's usually simply shortened to hands. Slim refers to them as the hands, and so they are reduced to their ability to do manual meaning with the hand, labour. And so the first thing to note here is that this is an example of how the capitalism, which Steinbeck is exploring in the ranch model, reduces the men to dehumanises them, reduces them to their use or your utility for industrialised agriculture. But actually he does a lot more that's interesting with the idea of the hand, because the hand, as well as becoming like an avatar or a symbol for their humanity, is also a representation of their masculinity and their manliness. This isn't a stretch, trust me on this. If you think about it for a moment, let's think about the number of times hands matter in Of Mice and Men. Candy has lost his hand. He's described as having a smooth stick-like stump where his hand used to be. As a result of losing his hand, he is no longer a ranch hand, and he is reduced to doing work around the farm. Specifically, the work he does around the farm as the swamper is feminized and female-coded. He cleans up after the other men. He is reduced in masculine status. He has no power and no status among the other men, which is in part how Carlson gets to shoot his dog. And this all comes down ultimately to the fact that he's lost his hand. In losing his hand, he has lost his masculinity. When Curly goes after Lenny, and Lenny fights back, what Lenny does to him, incredibly painfully, but also symbolically, is he crushes his hand. Now, this is a moment where Curly's masculine status amongst the men is reduced, it's removed. And this has happened because his hand gets crushed. But that's not the only important point to remember with Curly when it comes to hands. First of all, Curly's masculine status in the farm, and among men generally, is held together because he's considered to be good at fighting. He's not called good at fighting, though. The language they use to describe him as good at fighting is to say that he is handy. So he is handy, and as such, this means that he has power and status amongst the hands. But when his hand is crushed by Lenny, his status as handy and as a man amongst men is removed. Finally, it isn't just violence that the men use as a way of determining their status and their masculinity. Of course, the other thing that men do in this book is that they have sex. The only person who gets to have sex without paying for it, it would seem, is Curly. And how do we know that Curly is doing this? Because Curly keeps a glove full of Vaseline to keep his hand soft for his wife. So, hands represent toxic masculinity in the form of showy sexuality. Curly wants everybody else to know that he's having sex. They represent the ability to inflict violence on other men. If either of those things is removed, then that masculinity is threatened and reduced. And ultimately then, there is the way in which men are reduced to their ability to perform manual labour in the pursuit of industrialised capitalist agriculture. Hands are a really important symbol. Definitely use them if you can.